live for your principles. Not for praise, they admire those who don't crave admiration, those who act with integrity, not for recognition, but because it's right. Ask yourself, if no one saw your efforts, would you still pursue them? If no cheers followed, would you still stand by your values? You don't need permission to live authentically, just the courage to stop seeking external validation. This shift marks the beginning of true growth, where you cultivate a quiet, unshakable presence that radiates without effort. When you stop chasing applause, you tap into an inner strength that commands respect naturally. Not through performance, but through authenticity. This isn't about isolating yourself or dismissing others' opinions. It's about anchoring your worth within, so you're not swayed by fleeting praise or criticism. Stoicism teaches that true freedom comes from aligning your actions with your principles, regardless of who notices. Imagine a craftsman carving a chair in solitude. Not for sale, but for the act of creation itself. His work holds value because it reflects his skill and intent, not because it's seen. That's the energy you can embody. In the lessons ahead, we'll explore how to build this presence, protect your dignity, and live with purpose. Drawing from Stoic wisdom to forge a life that's yours, unshaken by the world's noise. Lesson 2. Authentic presence shines without seeking attention. The more you crave attention, the more you surrender control. It's a harsh truth, but Stoics prioritize truth over comfort. When your self-worth hinges on others' notice or praise, you've handed your identity to a world too busy to care as much as you think. Society equates presence with being seen, witty lines to steal the spotlight, posing to catch eyes, or curating an online self that's more fiction than fact. People visit cafes not for coffee but to be seen sipping it, post not to share but to scream, "I exist." Stoicism cuts through this with a piercing principle. What needs an audience to exist isn't real. Zeno of Citium, Stoicism's founder, taught in open squares, not grand halls, content to reach one listener, not chasing crowds. His words outlasted his era's loud voices because they were grounded in truth, not showmanship. True presence is quiet, but enduring, like a steady flame that warms without flickering for attention. Consider Steve Jobs, standing alone on a stage. No theatrics, saying, "One more thing," and captivating millions, not by demanding attention, but by embodying authenticity. Or think of Rosa Parks, whose quiet refusal to move sparked a movement, because she shouted, but because her resolve was undeniable. You don't lack the ability to stand out, but the calm to not need to. Those with true presence listen more than they speak, observe before reacting. Their words carry weight because they're rooted in clarity, not volume. The loudest often shout to silence their own doubts, while the grounded command respect effortlessly. To cultivate this, practice small, deliberate acts. Enter a room without scanning for eyes on you. Focus on your posture. Take a slow breath. Feel your feet on the ground. In conversations, don't plan your next clever remark. Just listen fully, as if the other person's words are all that exist. When you speak, offer one clear thought, then pause. No over-explaining, no disclaimers. Try this today, in a meeting or casual chat. Say one sentence that reflects your truth, then stop. Notice how it feels to speak without needing to fill the silence. The less you chase notice, the more you're respected, not with fleeting glances, but with lasting regard. You become a flame, not a firework, warming those who draw near. You may fear fading into the background, but ask, do you want to exhaust yourself chasing attention, or build a presence so meaningful it endures without being remembered? A gust of wind steals eyes, but a stone holds weight without moving. Which are you? Share this with someone trapped in the race for notice. You might help them find their own gravity. Comment, I choose to be a stone, not a gust. Let's move to the next lesson, where self-discipline becomes the bedrock of your dignity. Lesson 3. Self-discipline builds true dignity. Your worth isn't for proving, it's for protecting. Dignity isn't found in arrogance, but in the discipline to choose what's right over what's easy. A Stoic's value lies not in others' approval, but in mastering themselves amid chaos, temptation, or solitude. They don't chase emotions. Like fleeting clouds, they observe them, like a storm passing over a mountain, aware but unmoved. They don't proclaim, "I'm important." Their self-control speaks louder than any shout. Dignity isn't a birth built through daily choices, resisting impulsive reactions, stepping back from petty gossip, refusing to bend principles to avoid conflict. Each act strengthens an inner system of command. Consider small, unseen choices. Staying home to read instead of chasing a party you dread. Rejecting flattery that feels hollow, not dimming your light to ease others' insecurities, or ending ties that demand you sacrifice your values. You can be compassionate and kind, but without self-leadership, life drags you into others' needs. People around you seek listeners, followers, or someone to absorb their chaos. Without clarity of purpose, you become their tool, mistaking it for generosity. But no one thanks you for erasing yourself. They grow used to your presence, blind to your exhaustion. Stoicism doesn't demand detachment, but clarity. You have the right to say no, walk away, or leave spaces where you're undervalued, not from ego, but from duty to yourself. Epictetus said, "No one is free who isn't master of themselves." This freedom isn't abstract, it's liberation from reacting, clinging, or craving approval. The less you're swayed by external noise, the more you shape your inner world and influence others. We're taught self-love is selfish, that we must give everything to earn worth. But true kindness isn't saying yes when your soul screams no. Self-love is a moral duty. You can't uplift others without first leading yourself. Reflect, are you living with dignity, or shrinking to fit others' expectations? Do you stay silent to keep peace, each silence fracturing your core? Have you betrayed your truth to avoid judgment? Reclaim your power not by shouting but by rejecting what erodes your self-respect, not because you're superior, but because you honor your principles. Try this daily practice. Write 3 moments you acted against your will to avoid judgment, then 3 ways you'd choose differently. For example, if you nodded through a disrespectful comment, note how you'd calmly state your boundary next time. Consistency, not perfection, builds a self you're proud to face. Think of Nelson Mandela, who preserved dignity through decades in prison. Not by fighting, but by refusing to let injustice define him. You weren't born to please, but to live purposefully. The next lesson deepens this journey. Lesson 4. Your dignity is non-negotiable. You're not wounded because others cross your boundaries. You're wounded because you don't defend them. No one can diminish your self-respect unless you allow it. Each time you stay silent when dismissed, force a smile at an insult, or cling to relationships where you're exploited. Stoicism doesn't teach you to fight for validation, it urges living by principles, even unseen. Self-respect erodes, not in dramatic betrayals but in small surrenders, tolerating harmless jabs, nodding politely at disrespect, or thinking it's not worth the fight. But it is worth it. Concession teaches others how to treat you, signing an unspoken pact. I'll endure if you stay. This quiet self-betrayal corrodes slowly, not with fanfare, but with steady loss. You believe you're preserving peace, but you're sacrificing dignity. A Stoic doesn't stay quiet to dodge conflict or confront an anger. They act to guard truth, even if it unsettles others. Many fall into this trap, mistaking kindness for submission, composure for erasure, holding on to others by letting go of themselves. Stoicism rejects this cost. Stoic accepts discomfort or misunderstanding, but never betrays their values for temporary calm. Consider Daniel, a kind, creative worker who became the office's go-to for extra tasks. When a colleague stole his idea in a meeting, he stayed silent, thinking, it's fine if the team benefits. But soon, he was sidelined, reduced to errands. Staring in the mirror, He saw a hollow self not oppressed by others, but diminished by his own silence. He didn't lash out, he simply stopped agreeing blindly. He said, "I'm focused on other priorities," or ignored calls from his chronically late friend. His quiet resolve spoke volumes. Exploiters backed off, and others respected his boundaries, not because he demanded it, but because he carried himself as worthy. Are you like Daniel, shrinking to fit others' comfort? Do you fear speaking up? Will disrupt peace. Is that peace or surrender? Try this. List where you feel diminished, jokes that sting, schedules you bend, moments you need permission to be you. Act on one. Don't respond to that message. Don't over-explain. Don't apologize for protecting yourself. For example, if someone interrupts you, pause and say, "I wasn't finished." Dignity grows from quiet boundaries held daily, not loud demands. Clarity, not conflict, defines you. Those who can't respect your limits don't belong close there. Exit clears space for your growth. Comment. Today, I set this boundary. Insert boundary. The deeper we go, the closer we get to safeguarding your worth against a world that chips away at it. Lesson 5. Silence carries a price when it conceals your truth. You don't need to shout for respect, but your silence must signal when a boundary is crossed. No one can diminish you unless you lower yourself. Many bow not because they feel unworthy, but because they fear losing fleeting approval, calling it tact or maturity. In truth, it's handing others power to rewrite your worth, one cruel joke, one dismissive glance, one passive-aggressive remark at a time. This isn't about selling yourself short, about failing to defend yourself, letting others use your dignity freely. You don't intend to compromise, but you stop resisting, stop standing firm, stop showing up as you. You shrink voluntarily. Stoicism doesn't urge you to outshine others, but to remain whole. No one can belittle you if you live by reason. Marcus Aurelius said, "Your worth matches your ambition's worth." If you aim for comfort, a word or look controls you. If you aim for dignity, you'll trade temporary peace for inner truth, knowing relationships built on pretense aren't worth keeping. Silence isn't always noble. Sometimes it's fear cloaked as virtue. Be the bigger person, you tell yourself, but each let it go erases you, molding you to others' expectations. You teach others it's okay to disrespect you. Consider Maya Angelou, who didn't smile through a racist story. She calmly asked the guest to leave. Not in anger, but clarity, preserving herself. Self-respect isn't against others, refusing to abandon yourself. When you stop being agreeable, you become magnetic, not overlooked, but defined, with boundaries and presence. You don't demand respect. You carry yourself as someone who won't be dismissed. If someone leaves because you're not easy to please, their exit restores what you gave away. Practice this. Next time someone mocks your view, don't laugh or ignore it. Let your silence carry weight, perhaps saying, "That didn't land well with me." Don't fear seeming serious. Those who know their worth unsettle those who don't. Your resolve unlocks dignity, not when you're perfect, but when you refuse to be diminished, flaws and all. Try this exercise. Write down a recent moment you stayed silent to keep peace, then script how you'd respond with calm clarity. For example, if someone belittled your work, write, "I'd say, I value my effort and would appreciate constructive feedback." Practice this response in your mind to build confidence. The next lesson explores loving yourself in your imperfection. Lesson 6. Embrace yourself. Flaws and all. Accepting yourself feels hard. You may believe love must be earned, only worthy when you're accomplished, disciplined, or enough. But that's a trap. Everyone is a work in progress, so waiting for perfection denies love to all. We grow up feeling we owe ourselves flawlessness, seeing mistakes as proof we don't deserve compassion. Stoicism doesn't glorify self-love with empty affirmations. It demands an honest, clear-eyed relationship with yourself, especially in weakness. Ignoring errors isn't the goal, but how you treat yourself in failure shapes your ability to rise. Marcus Aurelius wrote, not to boast, but to remind himself he was human, always growing. Those striving hardest often feel never enough, resting least. Progress, meant to inspire pride, can leave them empty, as each milestone moves the goal further. Elijah, a 42-year-old entrepreneur, saw his 3 failed startups as evidence of unworthiness. A voice urged, "You're not enough, push harder." After a deal collapsed, he felt defeated. Then his father's words struck, "A man's worth isn't in winning, but in not abandoning himself." Elijah returned, not for glory, but to honor his relationship with himself. He wrote nightly, "Today, I kept going." Some days it was truth, others a fragile hope, but it softened his inner voice from judgment to kindness. He's still building, but no longer feels he's borrowing worth. Epictetus said, "You are a soul carrying a corpse." If you see your soul as flawed, you imprison yourself. Start each morning asking, "Can I treat myself like a friend today?" Try this. Write 3 things you did well today, however small, like staying calm in stress or trying despite doubt. Then write 1 thing you'd do differently, not as criticism, but as guidance. For example, I'd speak up next time I'm interrupted. This builds a foundation to stand alone. Psalm 139:14 says, "I am fearfully and wonderfully made," not perfect, but valuable. Self-love isn't earned, it's your right as a work in progress. Don't discard your blueprint. You with your struggles, contradictions and choices are enough to keep moving. Consider Malala Yousafzai, who embraced her voice despite threats. Not because she was flawless, but because she valued her purpose. The next lesson explores what truly shapes you beyond achievements. Lesson 7. The path defines you more than the prize achievements. Don't grant you the right to stand tall, it's how you've walked, even without witnesses or rewards. Society ties worth to titles, followers, or accolades, but Stoicism values overcoming yourself daily. No one sees you resist anger, break a habit, or rise after failure, but these moments forge unshakable self-respect. People diminish themselves not by losing but by betraying their truth to win others' approval. If you need comparison or validation, you've given others power over your worth. Judging your day by what's seen implies it's worthless if unnoticed, but a Stoic lives to be right, not seen. The world pushes performance, but dignity grows in private. A celebrated figure may feel empty without self-peace, while an unseen person moves forward, knowing they're aligned with their path. Inner strength comes from quiet steps, writing 1 page, though unread, saying no despite misunderstanding, choosing right over easy. Try this. Each evening, write 1 silent win, a moment you acted with integrity, like resisting gossip or persisting despite fatigue. This progress, unseen, roots deep in your core. Untouchable. Think of Vincent van Gogh, who painted masterpieces with little recognition. Driven not by fame but by his vision, his journey defined him, not his lack of applause. Confidence comes, not from praise, but from living rightly, unnoticed. You don't need a finish line to know you're advancing. Just look back and see you didn't betray who you're becoming. When you value the journey, you stop fearing being overlooked. Here to live rightly, not to be remembered. That's unbreakable dignity. Practice this. Set 1 daily intention aligned with your values. Like today, I'll listen fully in 1 conversation. Track it for a week. Notice how it shifts your sense of self. You don't need recognition to persist, only alignment with your purpose. Conclusion. This journey's final stop isn't about hardening yourself, but refusing to shrink to fit the world's expectations. You weren't born for applause, or to dim your light for others' comfort. These 7 Stoic lessons, from releasing validation's grip to building unseen strength, guarding your dignity, and loving your unfinished self, aren't abstract theories, but a way of life for those weary of seeking permission to exist. They reveal 1 truth. Your worth doesn't need approval, only your refusal to betray yourself. If you've silenced your voice for peace, or downplayed yourself to be liked, stop. It's costing your dignity. You don't need to become someone else. Just return to who you were meant to be, grounded, principled, unshakable, even when misunderstood. Think of Stoics like Seneca, who faced exile yet wrote with clarity, or modern figures like Angela Merkel, whose quiet resolve led through crises not for fame, but for duty. If this resonated, you're not alone. We're learning together, drawing from ancient wisdom of those who endured trials, yet held their dignity. If this clarified your strength, like the video to reach others standing where you are. To live honestly, deeply, without bowing, subscribe and comment. I choose to live as myself. The road ahead is long. Walk it authentically. No shrinking, no permission, no compromise.